Hey, what's up, everybody? This is yours truly, the hardcore princess Jules Malone, and today you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
It is not a great day for wrestling as we lost ECW legend New Jack this week. Scooter, you have some words?
Uh, uh, New Jack, aka Jerome Young, ECW original, and uh, you know, spent most of his time with ECW. Started out in Memphis, believe it or not, with the USWA. Spent some time actually in Smoky Mountain. There was a point where he could have ended up in the WWE at one point. Um, he played high school football in Atlanta, was a backup for Georgia Tech. But, of course, his most famous work is with Mustafa Saeed as the Gangstas in Extreme Championship Wrestling. And perhaps the most infamous incident of 90s pro wrestling, the mass transit incident. Not gonna describe it because if you're listening to us and you're a wrestling fan, you already know it, or you can Google it. But that sort of put New Jack on a I don't want to say blackball because he still competed throughout the year, but it left New Jack with a stigma. But it proved he was a man who lived his gimmick. Of course, then after Mustafa and Perry Saturn left ECW, New Jack teamed with John Cronus to form the Gangstanators as well. New Jack was basically with ECW until the end. Wrestled for Rob Black's infamous XPW out in SoCal. As well, wrestled for TNA in 2003, 2004, made an appearance in 2010 at TNA's ECW reunion show Hardcore Justice, along with Mustafa attacking Team 3D and Joel Gertner. New Jack was the last time New Jack was supposedly supposed to compete in a ring. He was set to face former UFC star Phil Baroni in an unsanctioned match for Pro Wrestling Syndicate in Sayreville, New Jersey. That apparently did not happen. He would appear at a Crushed 2 wrestling event in Minneapolis, interfering in a match between Eugene, yes, that Eugene, Nick Dinsmore, and Tommy Lee Curtis, bringing out his trademark garbage can full of weaponry. Then his last official match took place in he was wrestling apparently right up until his death, his passing.
He was only 55.
He was, unfortunately, yes, he was still young, and I believe the last match, at least the last match I see, is New Jack against C.W. Anderson and Shane Douglas. And also match against Masada in VIP wrestling. He did some other stuff as well. He was in the wrestling documentary Beyond the Mat. He's been in the ECW video game, Anarchy Rules, and Backyard Wrestling 2. There goes the neighborhood. He has his own episode of Dark Side of the Ring. New Jack, surprisingly, is referenced to the 1996 Weezer song El Scorcho. And also in that same lyric, Johnny Grunge of Public Enemy is also referenced. The line, watching Grunge leg drop New Jack to a press table.
Got some ECW fans in music.
Yeah. And while New Jack was a vocal critic of Paul Heyman,
who hasn't?
Paul Heyman still expressed an incredible sentiment on talking smack, which is something that WWE very rarely does.
I mean, when are you going to tell Paul Heyman he can't talk? And even when you tell him not to, he's still going to do it because he's Paul Heyman. But I mean, despite what issues that they may have, they knew each other. They worked with each other. Despite the issues that they had, I'm sure that they respected each other as well. So yeah, why not say something about him? Kaliko, you have any words about New Jack?
Ooh, okay, where to start? I first saw New Jack at USWA. Like Scooter said, I was, like everybody knows, I was in the Memphis area, and USWA was like the stomping ground for him. So that was my first time of seeing New Jack. He was just different, and then he went to Smoky Mountain and he cut one of the craziest promos that you would hear in East Tennessee, where if you know, you know, and you're a wrestling fan, you know, but just know he was out there giving props to OJ during the height of OJ. And if that didn't get you heat in East Tennessee, I don't know what would. But to me, he was the guy that walked it like he talked it till the end. And the only person I just really, and it's funny because these wrestling deaths, like everyone talks about the wrestler, but I feel bad mostly for the sons of these wrestlers, right? Like Brody Lee's kid, New Jack kid, and like the fact that they're gonna end up without a father, right? And New Jack wasn't a perfect person, and the problem that we have today is that people are wanting to air out all of his dirty laundry and call him a shit person. And to me, I'm like, dude, he may have been a shit person to you, but that's still somebody's boss, somebody's dad, right? Like, to me, that's the only thing I really hate about these deaths. Yeah, you can have, like, issues, and yeah, some people worship people, but you don't let that define the person that they let that be a definition, right? Like, the one thing I always say, life is not a dictionary, it's a thesaurus. You're not defined by one thing. It's just a multitude of things that are synonymous or anonymous with you. And I hate when our culture just can't let shit go and just go, damn, rest in peace. Like, that's the shit that kind of gets me. And I mean, everybody's acting like they're holier than thou. We all had some shit that we done that we regretted, that we were shit to other people, but just let the positive shit that he did be more impactful than the negative shit. I mean, everybody has their moment of weakness, right? Like, so that's all I got to say, man. Just let for his kids' sake, let those, you know, who remember him dearly get the positive stuff out there about him. And that's what matters. 'Cause I'm pretty sure he may have been shitty to people in the business and da-da-da-da, but at the end of the day, was he a good father? Was he a good husband? You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what really matters at the end. And that's all I gotta say about it.
And of course, thoughts and prayers go out to the family of New Jack. Now into the news portion of the show. A lot of news happened this week, but one of the main things this week was AEW moving to TBS, the land where the wrestling, well, any show goes to die, essentially.
Yes, they also announced a second 1 hour show though.
On Fridays after SmackDown.
Yes, Rampage, which that will air on TNT.
Oh, that will air on TNT?
That one will air on TNT because I don't believe it'll be live.
Interesting.
I mean, with everything coming back, I mean, is this really surprising, considering, you know, that, you know, the thing that makes me wonder is are they going to end up airing Braves games on TNT instead?
No, they're actually moving that spot for hockey. You know, kind of like how everyone was kind of saying that when NXT got moved to Tuesdays for hockey. Funny how that works. Irony at its finest. Irony at its finest.
God, what is Atlanta's hockey team again?
Oh, it was the Thrashers, but then that shit got canked because ain't that many black people. Atlanta's black city, and we is not trying to do no hockey. Hell, they barely do the Hawks.
Yeah.
I think we're more Moss people, right, Twitter?
Yeah. I mean, they couldn't think of another bird.
Well, Braves were originally in Milwaukee. The Hawks were from St. Louis.
Yeah. The Falcons.
And Georgia, and the Falcons. Falcons there. But really, it's all dogs. Georgia dogs, Georgia Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
Pretty much it. The B's and the dogs. B's and the D's. But, oh well.
And this is essentially a death sentence for AEW.
I wouldn't say that.
I mean, TBS is not TNT.
Yes, but they're also losing. They're also losing Conan because he's retiring, or he has retired already. So they need. TBS needs something to essentially.
But they're not filling.
Well, you know, I don't see. There's two things about that. First,
I mean, the fact that you mentioned Conan.
Kaliko with some audio issues right now. There's kind of two things about it. Is the people that watched it on TNT going to transition to TBS? And Kaliko, are you there?
I am here.
You had a thought?
The fact that you mentioned Conan, I always said this about TBS. The only show that I remember that actually was a mainstay in a prime time slot was House of Pain when Tyler Perry was optimistic that it'll be the biggest show on TBS. But the problem to me is that it's gonna be it'll be the only show on TBS, but it's still gonna go against hockey and all these other sports that are coming back. So this is where I feel like it's that sense of wrestling being mainstream but not being popular, right?
Do you think that this was TNT's kind of, they had a test run with AEW. They did decent ratings, but it's kind of time to pull the plug and get something that they know will get them more ratings on Wednesdays in that time slot.
Well, the only thing that really gets double-digit ratings now is live sports. And it's mainly because of the unpredictability. But if TNT is going to get these games, they're going to have to get good games. Because keep in mind, ESPN bought some hockey rights. USA all of a sudden bought hockey rights. And now TBS and TNT are in the game. So it just depends on what the matchups are. Like, the only reason TNT is even relevant is not even because of the basketball game. It's because of Inside the NBA, which is like their pre-show and post-show, 30-minute pre-show and post-show. So it's more of a connect. And the fact that they had Dynamite follow Inside the NBA and that precipitous drop-off is a big problem for me if I'm TNT. Because TNT, I mean, they're following the best show you got. And they're still not, like, maintaining viewers. But getting the mill, I mean, that's cool. And I'm glad that they get a show on Friday. But it better be taped because Roman's on a run. And SmackDown is not Raw. SmackDown is not NXT. It actually got some substance.
Essentially, SmackDown is the big dog of pro wrestling right now. No pun intended.
But it always had that track record, though.
Yeah.
It always had that track record.
It's definitely gonna. Yeah, I don't. The second show that they're promising, their fans are probably gonna watch it, no doubt. But I don't see, the casual fan jumping from SmackDown right into AEW. But that's just me.
But SmackDown's also live.
Does that
Scooter,
really mean
didn't
anything?
Scooter say it was fake? Scooter said it was going to be fake, right?
Yeah, the Friday show, because it's only 1 hour. It's going to be taped. Yeah, I mean, with Dark and Dark Elevation, and now Rampage. I mean, I'm assuming that this 1 hour show was a consolation. To them, I wouldn't have put it on Friday after SmackDown though. That's the thing. Is I would have put it on after Raw, because in most cable channel guides, TNT comes right after USA usually. Like for me, USA is channel 550, TNT is channel 551.
Mine's USA is 760 and TNT is 752.
See that's it's still close. Fox channel 5 or 505 if you want to in HD to 551. I mean, if it was in close proximity to the same channel, it'll probably be more successful. Maybe we'll get a Rampage Championship. I don't know at this point. I mean, honestly, I think there's bigger things in the news.
True.
My question
but SmackDown is also on a show where it's on a channel where everyone has.
Yeah.
Everyone has Fox. So that's the bigger problem. Who ain't got Fox? Because it's a local channel.
My question is, when are we going to be talking about when AEW moves to the Pop channel?
Well,
I don't think it'll go that far.
Only because Viacom and CBS owns the Pop channel.
I mean,
Paramount.
Yeah, we'll talk about it another time. On the New Japan news.
Oh yes.
Will Ospreay has had to forfeit the IWGP World Championship due to a neck injury. He was supposed to wrestle Okada at Wrestle Grand Slam maybe like a week or two ago. Okada supposedly, if you believe rumor and innuendo, got coronavirus. They had to cancel the event. And now a couple weeks later, Will Ospreay is out of the match as well. What does this mean for Will Ospreay, and what bad luck for for New Japan? Right, Scooter?
Right. Who like? What is this really gonna mean? I mean, and who do you put the belt on to begin with? I mean, this is just, it's very odd. I mean, that's all I can really say.
What say you, Kaliko?
First off, Will Ospreay, hopefully he gets his health to 100%. Because to me, his health supersedes pretty much anything other than this. It leaves an opening where if he's able to come back, he can go right into the picture as the person who never lost the belt. But to me, in the aggregate, there's only 3 people who are going to be capable of getting this belt: Ibushi, Okada, and Naito. And if I had money, and I told y'all this was going to be Okada getting the belt back, because in about 3 months, or maybe 2 months, we have this thing called the Olympics, and they're trying to strut out their best. And their best is Okada as far as a marketability standpoint on a global scale. Not saying that Naito is not that, but Naito feels more, how can I put it? Naito is like Daniel Bryan-ish, where it's like cult. It's a cult. You either love him, and people love him to death.
And now this wasn't like a freak accident. This was, a cumulative injury. It's no secret that Will Ospreay has had neck injuries in the past. Obviously the timing could be worse. But you think that they trust Will Ospreay after this injury to maybe put the belt back on him? Scooter?
I guess that depends on who the interim champion becomes, and if they perform as a better champion than Ospreay in the eyes of New Japan.
I mean, there's only one person. It's Naito. I mean, Okada. It's only Okada.
And the other thing of that is, now, Will Ospreay was the leader of United Empire. He, again, leader. Who takes up that position? Unless they bring somebody else in, I see Great Khan taking that spot, even though he might not be ready for it. What say you, Kaliko?
I mean, it would be a good spot for Jeff Cobb to try to get back on the board.
We both know that's not happening.
I mean, I'm not saying it ain't. I'm not saying it will, but if anybody needs it, it's kind of him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, they're not giving it to Aaron Honore.
No, they're not. So it's either Great Khan or Jeff Cobb. And Jeff Cobb, as much as his stock has been down as of late, but he's a name, a legit name.
Look, what about Sonata or Evil?
Sonata's LIJ and Evil is
Evil's Bullet Club.
Oh, you're talking about you're not talking about the title. You're talking about who from the Empire. Okay.
Well, I mean, they could get Darth Vader.
Or maybe they should get Bane.
Which Bane? George Clooney Bane or Kristen Bell Bane?
That can't happen. That can't happen. But Jeff Cobb, I mean, he's already a Gaijin. They're gonna give him heat because he's American or Pacific Islander, so might as well ride it.
Oh, Mox.
Ooh,
oh my
Moxley.
God.
No Moxley.
No. Hell no. He's barely claiming the U.S. title. No, hell no.
Now, a big thing that happened this week, NXT made some releases, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you ask. Most notably, NXT referee Drake Woltz. No, I'm not saying that right.
Drake Wuertz, a.k.a. Drake Younger.
Alexander Wolf, Jessamine Duke, Vanessa Bourne, Skylar Story, Ezra Judge, Kavita Devi, Jake Clemens, who was
Chelsea
a
Green.
referee, and lastly, Velveteen Dream. So I don't think it was any shock that that Drake was gonna maybe get released, considering the
Yeah,
hit he had and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and they're not going to fire, Sammy for his opinions on it. So,
But the problem is that Sammy's is more international, and no one really kind of keeps up with international news. Vice's Drake was literally
yeah,
impacting like U.S. politics, so it hits home, right? Like everyone knows about vaccinations and anti-vaxxers and him being what I'm saying. So it brought a stigma to where it could fuck up their business, because the whole point of even trying to get back to traveling, which they will, that's a whole nother news, but the only way all this shit can happen is if people get vaccinated. And if he's out there telling employees that they're stupid for getting vaccinated, then it's a mute point.
I mean, and I guess Drake doesn't like to go places.
Now, we've been talking about whether or not Velveteen Dream would be fired for a lot of months as of late. It finally happened. Is it shocking? Not shocking? Did he have it coming? What say you, Screw?
It's interesting because they've had Dream on TV for a little bit in between all this stuff, and then again he's gone. I honestly, I'm thinking it's a matter of dead weight instead of personal actions that got Dream released. It was the stuff that he was being accused of didn't help, and people are gonna say he should have been released a long time ago. It makes me wonder if new information is going to come to light about the situation pertaining to Velveteen's Dream. I don't know if any other company would take a chance on him.
You don't think he's Impact bound?
I don't think so. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Dream, aka Patrick Clark, retires from the ring altogether. I wouldn't be surprised if this whole thing has jaded him from wanting to get back in the ring. And Darren Young comes to mind about someone in a similar lifestyle, not a similar action, but I mean Darren Young, who's still wrestling, and who, unfortunately, I'm a little bit biased because I know Darren, or Fred, as most of us call him. Fred Yehai. Fred. It depends. I've heard he's been Fred Yehai or Yehai, Yehi.
I was going by what New Japan calls him.
But there's still that stigma associated, unfortunately, in terms of and I don't want to say homophobia, but I mean, we're finally, we're finally barely just, made a dent in the, in progress in terms of accepting, people for who they are. Now, Velveteen Dream, quite possibly a scumbag.
Quite possibly, depending on who you ask.
And it's just a matter of, we don't need to keep him. He's been forgotten at this point.
Any chance of bringing him back is going to be brought. It's going to be brought up with issues and heat from the crowd.
Yeah, it's going to be met with a lot of scrutiny, and especially with what we're going to presumably talk about next is that we're going to see a massive shift in attitude of crowd and response.
And we have a couple, one or two more things to talk about with the released wrestlers. Kaliko, any comment on Velveteen Dream?
I think he's still young. He's relatively young, so I don't think it's over for him per se. Because I think we kind of get in this thing where people are. I think his prime is nowhere near, because think about it. All of the people that are in their primes right now, with the exception of a few, are in their 40s. So he'll get time to learn from it and get better if he chooses to stay in the ring. NXT, some of these you saw coming. The Drake one, I definitely saw coming, because it's when you saying stuff that's messing with people's pockets, especially when they trying to get back in on the road and do all this stuff.
And you're wearing your short.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I mean, and then they said there was an incident in which Triple H was giving a speech, and kind of like during the Black Lives Matter protests for George Floyd, and he was saying everybody's welcome regardless of race, creed, and he said, and there's been a rumor where when he said religion, that's when Drake got mad and stormed off from the speech, which kind of gave him a big ass doghouse. Like, I mean, you walking down on the dude who runs NXT, you pretty much got a death sentence. But everyone else is kind of like either never got a chance to get started or dead weight. And I mean, that's all we can say about it. I mean, NXT is one of those things where, hell, people come out of nowhere like Bronson Reed. So, I mean, it only so many at the top, and now you got to, watch what you say and do to make sure you maintain in place. It's no different in wrestling than anyone else of us who have jobs.
True. And Vanessa Bourne was supposed to go to the main roster. That never came to fruition. And now she's fired. And Skylar Story.
That one hurts. That one sucks. That one sucks because she just never got a chance to get started. Like that one, and she had the pizzazz and she had the heel characteristics. It's just gotta find a place to fit in, man.
And I mean, Brandy Lauren was never even on NXT TV, and they fired her.
Wasn't she in a battle royal? She was in a battle royal.
Well,
but yeah, for her though, something ain't right, because if you've been there and you ain't on TV by the time you got there, I mean, there's an issue, right? Like, There's got to be an issue.
Quite possibly. Now, transitioning to the WWE news, The Miz got injured, and his first major injury since
Yeah.
being a part of WWE. Is this a really big blow to WWE to take out one of their, biggest sponsors and endorsement men? Scooter?
Well, I mean, he'll still be doing, all the reality stuff. I mean, the third season of Ms. and Mrs. is wrapped. I'm not sure how far they were into a fourth season. I mean, he did take time off to recover from the vasectomy, and it's very funny because if you watch that episode, he says, this is technically my first injury.
So
And
I'm mistaken. It's his second injury.
no, this is his first legit in-ring injury.
Yes.
I mean, how the Miz has gone so long without being injured, that's like, I don't know if that's luck or if someone's looking out for him. But
maybe he's just that safe in the ring.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I know we're all dying for the Marine 7, Marine Harder. Or maybe Santa's little helper too.
Who could replace Paige in that movie?
Still have Paige in the movie.
Eva Marie.
Oh, there you go.
Oh God. But I wouldn't be surprised if when Miz comes back, he comes back different. And not in terms of a gimmick, but in terms of appearance. Like, Miz is probably going to get more jacked. That tends to happen.
That's interesting.
And then after he comes back, he'll go back to his dad bod slowly but surely. But I think this is probably going to end up being, and I hate to say this is probably going to end up being the best thing for his career. Because
that's a good point.
He's been all over the place, and he's been thrown in our faces, like so much. And this is going back to Jim Cornette talking about an off season for wrestlers, and he used Kevin Owens as the example. Keep Kevin Owens on TV for 3 months, and then give him 3 months off. Miz is going to be out for at a minimum 8 months, but based on the Miz, he'll probably recover much earlier.
But I would be surprised if he maybe took a little bit more time just to kind of, build the anticipation.
Yeah. When he goes back, I think it's going to be a Miz we want to see, and a Miz that the crowd will go nuts for. Because honestly, this is probably the perfect time to get some time off.
You might not be wrong about that. Now, Kaliko, anything you want to add?
Well, it won't mess with his wrestling style anytime soon, so that's a good thing. I mean, when he comes back, it's not like he has to alter anything. I mean, that's the biggest ish, the biggest saving grace because usually when most wrestlers have an injury like that, their style tends to change a little bit. And the Miz, he won't have to really worry about that because his style was more ground based anyway. So that's a good thing. Is um, and maybe it is, yeah. Maybe time off for him might help because I mean, granted, he needs it. He earned it. I mean, that dude. Say what you will about him, but he's a hustler, bro.
Oh, without a doubt.
He is probably the hardest working dude in WWE. The most out there guy in terms of TV shows, movies, appearances, whatever. Like he is the most down for whatever. So he needs this rest. Let him get better. Let him get some perspective. He comes back and watch people will cheer for him, and then he'll say something and get him pissed off again. So it always happens like that.
Oh, so true. And this wasn't like a freak accident in a match. This was probably accumulative during over the years, right?
I don't know if you could say this was a something that was potentially building up and eventually, instead of just giving way. Because Miz gave no indication like that was happening from what we could see, and if he was hiding it really well. I think this is just a freak accident.
Yeah, it's a freak accident because ACL tears never happen over time. Like if you look at the history of even like prime example is Derrick Rose, right? When he tore his ACL, he tore it on a hop and it just boom gave way. So usually it happens in an instant, not because of an accumulation of things. Because it's a muscle tear, not like a bone break or anything.
Yeah.
And lastly, the big thing of the week, WWE Live Tour starting July 16th. They're starting off in Texas. What does this mean, Scooter?
It means crowds. It means fans coming back. It means more money. And it probably means the death of the Thunderdome, at least in terms of for Raw and SmackDown. They'll probably keep it for NXT.
Thank God.
Because after that they won't. I mean, they won't need the Thunderdome, or they'll start charging for the Thunderdome. I mean, what they should do is make Thunderdome part of Peacock and the network experience. But it's fine. We've been waiting for this. I mean, I can only pray that we don't end up going backwards. Like it's finally getting like, are we gonna see COVID-20?
Oh God.
Or even COVID-21? I mean, it's just this is good, and as much as I hate everything going back to normal, this is one thing I'm looking forward to, returning to normal.
Without a doubt. And Kalika, you wanna add to that?
That means returns of going to scantily clad restaurants that are themed and getting drunk before the wrestling show. That's basically what that means. But the one thing that it looks forward to is just people actually coming together, man, getting back together. And of course, they're starting in Texas. It's been confirmed by Sports Illustrated that SummerSlam will be in Las Vegas, which is, to me, screams practice run mania for Vegas. Uh, so I think them running it for a couple months, climaxing it with probably the biggest wrestling pay-per-view in the summer would be a good thing. So why not? Plus, people get vaccinated, so that way we can get this shit faster. Like, I know people are on the fence about it. Either get vaccinated or wear a mask. Please. Just please don't fuck it up for all of us.
All right. That will conclude the news. And now a quick word from our sponsor.
Hey, folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show. Support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.